through. And just kind of hit the refresh button. Let it know when it kind of starts. Because I know that this part gets picked up, but then, people don't actually get to see that part. So, anyways.
Are we ready?
I am ready. Take it away.
Okay. Welcome to another live stream from Tairu Studios on the 30th day of June, 2025. This is live stream number 44, the 44 Magnum edition. As usual, we are led by our fearless leader, Sean Tairu Head. Say Ohio.
Ohio.
And also, I'm here. I'm not sure why. I'm Linus Dume Callahan. And welcome back, or if you're new, welcome for the first time. Now, I'm sure you all know that today is International Asteroid Day and National Meteor Watch Day for Americans. It's the day we all gather around the asteroid tree and sip meteor nog in commemoration of the Tunguska event. Mm-hmm. Now, I know you're a big fan of the Tunguska event.
I have no idea what it is.
Okay. All right. For our viewers at home, it was on this day in 1908 when a massive explosion destroyed 2,150 square kilometers of Siberian forest. That's 830 square miles for the metric impaired. The blast is estimated to have been about 1,000 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
Ouch.
Yeah, and the shock wave was reportedly felt as far away as England.
Was there someone just sitting outside and go, wow, this is quite a breeze?
Right? Oh, my, what was that? Yeah, no, I guess. I don't know. So, within the blast radius, this thing killed an estimated 80 million trees. Just flattened them. And when you see pictures of it, there's a clearing in the middle, and then every tree, for as far as you can see, are laying down away from it, like in a circle. It's super sorry, bad words. It's super fish sticking weird. Okay. It also caused a bunch of fires and stuff. Due to the remote location, there were no confirmed human deaths, although it's rumored that 2 or maybe 3 people disappeared during this time. And there were thousands of reindeer killed in the blast and also in the subsequent fires. And despite the massive destructive power of this event, there is no crater.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now in the pictures.
So it's a circle and then trees laid down for miles around it, but there is no crater, which is very odd. So the widely accepted explanation is that the devastation was caused by a meteor of around 50 to 60 meters across. Rather large chunk of space rock. Yeah. Except that it didn't hit the ground. It had an airburst.
Oh, so like it exploded above the ground.
They think maybe even as high as maybe 5 kilometers up was where it exploded. And it then somehow laid down all the trees but didn't dig a hole, which I find difficult to believe.
Maybe this was like one of those like ancient alien sort of things.
Well, I'm getting there.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And the general consensus is that was an airburst of a meteor, or possibly an airburst of a chunk of a comet or something. But here's the thing: no meteoric debris has ever been found in Tunguska.
What about the thing with the when we were talking about how volcanoes they like the rocks.
Pyroclastic?
Yeah. Would that be a thing?
Well, it depends on how... it has to be moving super fast.
For it to heat up that much.
And normally when something does break up in the atmosphere, it does that. It breaks up. It doesn't...
And then it's a bunch of other pieces
right,
of it.
And it doesn't vaporize, which is what would have to happen for there to be no debris anywhere in the blast radius.
So then we have, like, ancient aliens who are destroying the... Okay, all right.
Other theories include a natural gas explosion, which is an interesting theory. I don't know about the natural gas situation.
But that would still that would still leave a hole.
You would think, yeah. Another one of my favorites is the detonation of an alien spacecraft.
I like that one the most.
I do
so
too,
far.
And it was 1908, so it's not like the Russians shot it down. It was just,
Yeah, they weren't there yet.
Mayday, right? Yeah. And then my personal favorite is that a test was conducted at Nikola Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower that day where he transmitted millions of volts of electricity into the atmosphere and focused it on a remote spot in the Siberian wilderness. This is a reference to Tesla's very famous death ray, or he called it the Tesla gun, which he supposedly never built.
No, he built it.
I'm sure he did. And he had this idea that by using the Wardenclyffe Tower, that he could actually create a weapon that would be so devastating at a distance and so just fatal that it would promote world peace. It's kind of a peace through superior firepower. Which, of course, that's working out great with nuclear weapons so far.
Oh, yeah,
it's
fantastic.
It's doing great. But he hoped that it would promote world peace. So, which of these theories is your favorite? Please let us know in the comments.
I think the Tesla one's my favorite.
I love Gabriel. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? I'm lost. I came late. Okay. But anyway, yeah, so today is, in fact, astronomical observation day around the world, and we have a lot of astronomical references in our repertoire.
Yes.
Lots of references to the moon, for example, Shingetsu, Suki no Sabaku, and I just came across this Kohachiro Miyata's The Moon of Every Field, which is a really pretty, it's Shakuhachi and Tukoto, very pretty.
And then there's Nagasawa's Pleiades, Mitsuraboshi. And there's a lot of constellation pieces that are like that too.
Yeah. So I thought we would start our discussion today with a little discussion of that element of shakuhachi music, the idea of natural sort of idea or imagery, natural imagery in our repertoire. And I'm just the idea guy. You see. Execution is
yeah, no forewarning.
No warning.
Just go right into it.
No. My lesson just ended 5 minutes ago. You got nothing. No heads up.
Yeah. So I think the thing with the moon is that it's not special for Japan to be talking about the moon. People all around the world have been writing about the moon and using it as a metaphor for something. So it's not surprising, that we would see a piece that has that's thematic and based around the moon, right? Everything from Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata to, Tsuki Moon,
yes,
and whatever Shingetsu, which by the way, both of those pieces are contemporary pieces.
Yes.
But to extend it to that, I think more of the constellation things are definitely much more contemporary pieces. A lot of the older pieces tend to be more things around nature, like cranes, pine trees, wind, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? More of those sort of natural phenomenons and kind of focusing your breath to match that.
We also have a fair number of references to insects, frogs, bird sounds, bird wing sounds.
Yeah, I think that the birds are much more in the older pieces.
Yeah.
In the newer pieces, you'd get more bugs and stuff.
Yeah, Mushizuki, I love it.
Another Fukurando piece.
So, how, for the player,
Yeah.
what do you think is the best way to approach these naturalistic sounds? A lot of times it's obvious when it's, a koro or something and you can kind of hear it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or in the crane pieces, you can definitely hear the cry of the crane with your flutter tongue. But sometimes it's a little harder to bridge the gap between technique and conveying that imagery. And so what do you think is a good way for a player who's approaching a naturalistic piece to come at it?
Well, I think that first and foremost,
for you today.
Yeah, first and foremost, it's going to have to be based off of experience. So, how do you know what the wind sounds like if you've never heard the wind? Right? And so, for example, we have a piece called Matsukaze, right? The wind blowing through the pine trees. I think it would be first and foremost important to see and hear what it sounds and looks like when the wind brushes through the pine trees. And also what season you're listening to it in. Because the feeling in the, your interpretation of it is going to be way different in summertime than in wintertime. The Matsukaze is a welcome experience in the summertime. It cools down, it's refreshing.
Yeah.
But in the wintertime, It's
bitter.
It's bitter and it's brittle, and the imagery might be very beautiful to watch the snowfall from the matsu, but it's not necessarily enjoyable.
From inside your house with a cup of hot
Hot
cocoa.
cocoa, right? So but again, that also in will inform how you perform that.
Yeah.
Make it performative, right? And so, some people will say that they hear. Also, what you hear versus what someone else's hear is different. Is going to be different. So, like when Nick talks about it, Nick talks about kind of like the high pitched whistle, right? Well, I don't actually hear that. Like, I mean, I hear it, but I don't. That's not what my focus is on. That's not what I
associate with it.
Yeah, it's not what I find to be really important about that experience of it. I actually find like the airiness of the wind, like the whistle of the wind, not the whistling through the pines itself, right, coming through. And so I find that the pine is much more of an imagery than a sound, whereas some people find the pine to be more of a sound than an imagery.
Yeah. There's also a kind of it occurred to me, and like thinking about this when I was writing this up last night, it occurred to me that we talk a lot about sound and about visual imagery, but we don't often get into like the way pine forests smell.
Oh yeah, but that's a part of it too.
Sure. And so have you ever come across like overt references where they say, this piece is inspired by the smell of pine trees or the smell of bamboo shoots or whatever?
Typically it's more about like an emotional experience that someone has with a place, and then they use kind of like harmonies to explore that. Or it's like hearing some birds, hearing the sounds of rushing water, that kind of stuff, but not necessarily smells.
Yeah.
But there is a very interesting smell in Japan, which is the smell of burning hinoki. And that is one of like when I smell that, that's where I say like, yeah, that's the smell of Japan.
Japan, yeah.
Yeah, smell of burning hinoki is very, very pleasant.
Yeah, it is. It is actually. Well, and there's also, I think, to me, like one of the sort of quintessential Japanese sense memory kind of things after living here for a while is going for a walk, but not on the main roads, and the smell of just standing water, because you've got the rice paddies everywhere.
Oh yeah,
and it's but it's different from the smell of like moving water, right? The bubbling brook or whatever has a different scent than the rice paddies.
Yes,
and it's not a bad smell, but it is definitely well, actually, I associate it a little bit with Vietnam too, but it's especially on a really hot day.
But it's very distinct.
Yeah, it is very distinct.
Whereas, like, when we go walking or when we go hiking in the mountains, there's lots of places where you get the cold breeze of the brook, right, the babbling brook, and there's a scent that comes along with it that's very refreshing.
Yes,
and it's not that. It's a right,
it's definitely not that.
It's a little bit musky.
Yeah. And I think maybe there's a sort of an herbal, like vegetal sort of smell to it too, because you get the little bamboo shoots, little rice shoots rather, doing their thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So and so what does that sound like? Yeah, right. But I think that more often than not, what gets associated with that is more of like the mood of it, right? So you feel like really hot. And you don't want to exert yourself.
Yeah, you don't want to hurry.
Summer to me is not like that kind of sound. It's much more warmer and deep, whereas spring is a lot more
right.
Energetic and springy.
Sure. And with winter sounds, almost always the sort of cop out is to be very high pitched and brittle. And it's tricky to play pieces that have a winter sort of basis and have them not be really fast moving and shrill. The name of the piece is escaping me. The piece with the crazy high note.
Yuki no Yorini.
Yeah, Yuki no Yorini. There are parts of it that are quite shrill and kind of in your face, but then there's the parts in between that are not. And so it's tricky sometimes to like keep the feeling, I guess, of
and also
cold air.
There's ornamentation aspects of it as well.
Sure.
Now in the older variation of the shakuhachi, the Kodai Hitoyogiri, they would change modes.
Right.
And the mode would actually, you know, give you that feeling and that change of color. Where here we have to change more of the tone color because we only use 3 of the modes now, right? We don't use 5. And even our modal differences don't necessarily even have the same type of, you know, major color tone palettes that changed as they were with the older flutes, because we use half-holing and stuff like that, whereas back in the day they didn't.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that have changed, so we have to work a lot harder to make those differences on our end.
All right, just a little update. We have Eric. He says, "I believe the alien aircraft theory."
Yes.
But
good.
he also commented that Tesla was pretty omnipotent, which is true. It does seem like every time you really delve into some modern thing, you're like, yeah, and this is based on the work of Tesla.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he died alone in a hotel room talking to a pigeon.
Do you think that maybe Elon Musk is Tesla reincarnated?
No.
No?
No.
Not crazy enough?
Well, crazy enough, but the one unique thing about Tesla, at least from the biography and stuff that I've seen, is that he was not a megalomaniac. And I think Elon Musk is. But we are not mental health professionals. This is the boys in legal say we have to remind you that this is just our opinions. We don't know. We're guys that play flute. We don't know anything.
I still like to think of it if he was Tesla reincarnated. That'd be kind of cool.
I mean, it would be cool, but I don't know. We don't want to delve into that whole reincarnation versus, you know, because like the Western religious take, or, you know, Abrahamic faiths, it's hard. Okay, I'll use a metaphor. Eastern religions, it's like hockey. Mm-hmm. You go out, you skew votes. Mm-hmm. It was really close as to whether reincarnation was part of Christian doctrine or not. But
yeah, and
wow, are we off topic?
Yes, yeah. And it can go. And actually, this time it was my fault. So
you want to talk about fountain pens?
No, I would like to talk about Shakuhachi again.
Dungeons and Dragons?
No, but Shakuhachi is good.
I can tell you in Dungeons and Dragons, I can tell you how much damage a Shakuhachi does as a weapon.
Wow.
We homebrewed a Shakuhachi for a weapon. It's great.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, so we are, of course. It says chat disconnected.
Yeah, but we're back. We're back now.
Okay.
But actually, Eric, we already played Row. So Eric has said in the chat that we have to play Row, and once, but I already did. I did play Row.
All right.
So what about some technical things? Anything that's been coming up technique-wise, or just kind of Shakuhachi question-wise that's been thematic? It's been a quiet week on the Discord.
It has. It's been a quiet week on Discord, and actually it was just an old topic. It keeps coming up because we've got new people joining, and there's just tons of people that are really worried about the hot weather and their flutes.
And
it
hot
coming
weather
up.
is really not the issue. It's not the temperature that people you have to. That's really something to be important to keep in mind, that it's not the temperature is not the determining factor on it necessarily, unless it's extreme. Extreme cold and extreme heat, of course, is bad for Shakuhachi.
It's the sudden changes that are the problem.
Yeah. That's why you don't leave your Shakuhachi in the car, because it suddenly gets super hot, and that's what's going to make it explode.
Right.
But
if it's a place you wouldn't leave a puppy, don't leave your Shakuhachi.
That's a good way to put it. Right?
So if you wouldn't leave your puppy in a closet all the time, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And actually, that's something I've noticed in my house. We have closets that are interior. They don't have any outside walls. And so they actually are quite a bit cooler than the room sometimes.
Yes.
Because the room is facing the walls. And of course, if you're in a Western home and you maybe have closets that are against an exterior wall, the interior of those closets can be quite a bit hotter than the room you're in. Mm-hmm. And even if your room is air conditioned, that's not getting into the closet.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them that are also not ventilated too.
Right.
Right. So you walk in. I had an apartment like that. Walked into the walk-in closet, and you close the door. It was like being in a soundproof booth. So I used to record things in there.
Sure.
For like when students were like, I need an example of this piece. I'd go in there and record. It was great, but yeah, I wouldn't leave instruments in there for like long weeks and stuff like that.
And we always say this. I mean, it's not just Shakuhachi. Like guitars, violins, ukuleles. You gotta rehydrate. They need some love, and it's not even. It has nothing to do with it being hot. It has to do with the changes in humidity and whatnot. So, another thing that's come up lately too is that a lot of people are talking about the new Sankyoku recordings that have come out.
Oh yeah. So that's a good point. So we have, of course, my koto player that I've been working with for a long time, Chizuru Tanigaki. We hired her again to do some more of the pieces that are in the series that I teach. And so that's all the Sankyoku pieces that I teach that's on the membership. So if you're interested in the membership, join the membership.
Yes.
But we're thinking about calling her out maybe once more to do like 2 or 3 more pieces that are pretty popular amongst the students, and then have a nice backing track collection of those.
Yeah, they're really beautifully played, and I know watching the videos, it's very professional and very staid. But if you get a chance to meet her in person, she's actually quite lovely.
Yeah, she's very nice.
She's very nice. She looks very serious in the videos, but she's actually very nice.
Yeah, she says she's nervous in the videos. That's why. Of course, we also have the Taidu Jinashi model that's hanging out here, and we already have had some sales on it. And so people are now getting their reviews and writing it in. So we're looking forward to that. So if you're interested in as well to get one of these in your hands, you can check that out. I don't know if you want to post the link of that, or Svenja can post the link, whatever it is. But I'm very shocked with how just how much warmth it has in its sound.
It's very nimble, too, which I think a lot of Jinashi flutes, you have to, it's like sports car versus driving a bus, right? A lot of Jinashi flutes don't want to jump the octave real easily. They don't want to do things for you, and you have to kind of get around those things, and not so much with this flute.
Sometimes playing certain shakuhachi is driving a car without power steering. Pretty awful.
Yes, and I've had a few flutes that were a bit of a fight as compared to this. This is much easier to play, and I was actually really surprised with Jonen's take on it. That he was saying, it's fine. It's unbreakable and whatever, but it's not the kind of flute you just want to throw in your backpack and take hiking. And I was really surprised that was his take on it. That he felt that it deserves more than just being a backpack flute.
No, I agree. I mean, not just because it has my name on it, but I mean, I think that it's really is enjoyable to play, and the amount of colors that come out of it is just really surprising. But it's definitely Honkyoku centric.
Definitely.
For sure.
And it's got that that kind of, what's the word?
It's just the tone color.
Density? Like the tone is very solid, it's substantial. It's not as
it's gooey. It's got some gooey tones.
Yeah. It's brownies right out of the oven.
So, I wasn't going to do this, but I thought since we're here, I do want to show this model. So you'll see here we have the model that Nick has made, and then we have an additional model to the left, which is done in a shiny lacquer. So this is one that my student is actually designing right now, and this is looks like to be one of the final products, and this is going to be the Giotti version of this flute. And I don't want to give away too much about it. I'll play a little bit on it, but this is it's substantially heavier, and it's a very heavy flute, but what a sound it has!
It's shockingly loud.
I would say it's very much like what a lot of modern shakuhachi players are looking for.
Yes.
In their whether they're going to play folk music or contemporary music, this is definitely
you want to compete with the shamisen player.
Yeah, this is definitely it. It's very, very loud. Also has the back here is slanted down just a little bit more than what we normally would see on a shakuhachi, and this is just for ease of playing. It's got a fairly deep, not too deep of an utaguchi cut, but one of my favorite things about this is how the middle part of the instrument is ovaled,
Yes.
so it's very easy to put your hands on it and to play.
It's not even so much the fingers; it's the wrist position that it engenders because it's very comfortable.
Yeah, good word choice.
Engenders.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, a huge amount of power and tone there, and that's all we're gonna leave it there for right now. But stay tuned for that because I'm still.
You love that. He's like, see this flute? Nope, can't buy it.
You can't buy it yet.
Can't buy that.
Can't buy it. But it will be available soon, and it's also made of resin. It's the same kind of process there, but it's more of like the internal bore structure is a cast bore.
Yeah.
And so my student designed it himself after studying a bunch of different instruments, and I think personally, I think he's a genius. I think that for him not being someone who's been making flutes for decades and decades to come out with something like that. That also being said, he does work in an industry where he's a sculptor, a professional sculptor. So all that kind of arts kind of stuff and shaping things and whatever, that's his bread and butter. He's been doing that for 40 years now.
It's impressive, and of course, as just like with the Tairu Jinashi, the fit and finish is
that's
top notch.
That's the thing I like about both of these so far is that Nick's looks like it actually is a piece of bamboo, like an old piece of bamboo that just was lacquered for protection purposes, and this one looks like a modern instrument with shiny lacquer on it with the kind of the cut off bore.
Yeah, I would say this
ending.
is like what you might call piano finish.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it looks like a baby grand that shiny.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's very cool. I mean, it's really exciting to have things that are of really high quality that you could use in like a professional setting that are so different.
Yeah.
One that's more modern driven and one that's more classical driven. So you can have both.
I also really like the fact that the Giotti model there has a maker's mark on it.
Oh yes,
right?
yes.
Which is something that's it's a nice nod to the tradition of flute making. So.
Yeah, we should have Nick start putting the maker's mark on the Jinashi ones. I'll make sure that he knows that as well.
His maker's mark it's Hello Kitty, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
He used to have Hamtaro.
Oh. I know he wanted Real Akuma, but he got that.
It's a big
cease
lawsuit.
and desist.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
Yeah, terrible.
So another thing that did come up in our sort of technical questions section on the Discord was a discussion of being able to play like Ray Daikon and talking about different flutes, and it got really into the weeds about how whether you could play them or not, whether you could get a Ray Daikon out of a Jinashi flute consistently, and
yes and no. It just depends on the style, and because some of like the older Jinashi flutes, they're not really well made, right? That's not the purpose of them was to play the first two octaves and get a little bit of the daikon stuff, and that was it. You weren't going higher than the Nishigonoha. So those older flutes aren't necessarily designed to do that.
Right.
Now, when it goes into the modern stuff, post 1900, there's a lot of flutes that can, and there's also a lot of flutes that can't. Again, depending on the tradition. Like I wouldn't imagine any of those really gnarly hochiku flutes to be. I mean, talk about driving a car without power steering. That's no power steering nor power brakes.
Right.
Like you're really living on the edge there.
Well, that's something I always joke about your 3.0 as being a downspout, but like some of those hochiku, I mean, they legitimately look like a piece of plumbing. They're just giant.
Yeah.
Like this
Big fat flutes and stuff. And it's like, I wouldn't expect to get, the daikon register, or even if they did, not it to be in tune. But for its purpose, it's not supposed to do that, right? If it's a honkyoku flute, like for example, even with Nick's flute here, right? I don't expect it to have the daikon ray. Yeah, and I think it does though. Yeah, I don't think it has the Ray. So, but the thing is, it's not supposed to.
Right.
It doesn't need it. It does have the A flat, ironically. And there's the Ray. So it does exist
You
there.
have to build the pressure to get the Ray to come out.
But again, that's not what this
Not what
was
it's
for. So now on something like this one, it's easy. It comes right away. Not even, I don't have to think about it because that's again what it's designed for. So now that being said, there are Jinashi flutes that are built in a way that they're supposed to play a lot more like Giotti ones. So the way that they designed, they were kind of experimenting with them before Giotti came out, was actually kind of similar to this one here, where the internal bore is shaped, but shaped more with lacquer than anything else. Lacquer and, like bamboo bits and stuff like that. So you put like another piece of bamboo inside this piece of bamboo and then you lacquer it. So then you get like, you can still get that Ray. Very, very nice. And you retain some of the old colored tones, but it's not like the old Jinashi where it has like that really kind of warm, fuzzy, gooey tone. But it's not brassy like the modern instruments. But nonetheless, as the point is, they get back to the point, it can hit Ray Daikon.
Yeah.
So for me, because I like to do that kind of stuff and I like to play music where I do go into the third octave and I like using Jinashi flutes for modern pieces too, that's something that I need. But do you really need it all the time if you're just going to play Honkyoku? No, it's not really important.
Sure. Well, and it also, this kind of makes me think about where the shakuhachi is headed. With a similar thing happened to guitars. In the early 20th century, guitars became electrified,
Sure.
and people began to argue that this is a completely different instrument now, right? And I would argue that the scalloped neck, speed machine of somebody like Yngwie Malmsteen is a completely different instrument from like your classical.
Yeah, I think they're different instruments.
And so I think the shakuhachi may be headed in that direction because we've definitely got some very modern, very sensitive to the Western scale, modern instruments, and then we've got instruments that are kind of leaning back towards an older sound.
I think that when you compare the modern Giotti to the classical shakuhachi, I think they're different instruments.
Yeah.
Now, there is something in between where they have like the internal nodes or they use chamber shapes for the internal bore, but it's made in a way that where you get more power, more resonance and higher pitches and all that kind of stuff, and it's more sensitive to modern tuning. So there are mixes between them, which makes it kind of different because you say like, oh, the modern instrument is different. Well, yeah, it is different, but is it still a shakuhachi? Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely still shakuhachi because we can still play the same repertoire. Whereas like on the electric guitar scalloped frets and the classical guitar, you're not playing Bach lute music
well,
on it.
and the amount of legato that you can do on an electric guitar is basically indefinite, and that's not the case really so much with a classical guitar.
Yeah. So I think if there was like an electrified version of the shakuhachi, then that would be something else.
This is my retirement plan.
Yeah.
Electrified shakuhachi.
So in that case, then that would be a completely different instrument in my opinion. But I think that here they're different instruments, but it's still in the same category of shakuhachi.
I really think there's something to the idea of the mouthpiece of the shakuhachi being so flexible and allowing you to pitch, bend, and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's really something there to taking that instrument and then electrifying it, processing that sound, using, obviously I joke around about, running it through a pedal board or whatever, but
I mean, we will someday.
I think that there's something to be said for it. And I'm not sure what the best flute for that is. Maybe we want to go with something that's very pitch conscious and use. Also, there's the debate about what kind of pickup, like transducer pickup, sound transducer, or
the problem is that you just get so much windy sounds like with that.
Yeah,
right?
And you want something. I mean, that's the beauty of electric guitar is that the pickup is only picking up that vibrating, magnetic string, right? And there's nothing to magnetize.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very I don't like this. Another thing too is I don't like shakuhachi that's mic'd too close.
Right.
because
you hear every breath.
Yeah.
And hearing, that kind of sound in it can be neat if you're there in person, but I don't want that on a recording.
No.
And I think that what you tend to see when people are mic'd up is either in Asia you see a lot of the stuff taped to the face.
Yeah.
And so every every breath is picked up, or you get the Western style flute mic that's strapped on.
Yeah.
And those are, they're intended for a metal instrument.
Yeah.
The transmission of sound is not the same. And then you get the old school, like I'm standing in front of a mic.
Mm-hmm.
And miking them like a vocalist is actually
best.
It is, because it gives the shakuhachi player a lot of variability. If you're playing on a mic all the time, you learn how to lean in and out.
Yeah.
You can swell and do all kinds of stuff with the mic if you remember to do it.
Yeah, indeed.
So yeah, I think it's an interesting idea that the shakuhachi is slowly turning into some different instruments, but we're not gonna live long enough. Well, I'm not gonna live long enough to see all that.
I'll probably hate it.
Sean will be 60 years old. It'll be live stream number 7,422. I said back in 2025 that this was not a good idea. Anyway, yeah, I'm kind of excited to see who the Yngwie Malmsteen of shakuhachi is. The Eddie Van Halen of shakuhachi.
The super distortion.
Brown sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's no whammy bar. That's what the shakuhachi needs. We need a whammy bar like right here. So while you're playing, you just go wah 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 wah. So
You have a lot of
there's a lot going on in here.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
This is a whole thing, So yeah, I was looking back through the technical discussion, and like that's been going on since the end of April. We've been talking about.
Yeah, so I like the way I think about it is that like if you have a beginner flute or something like that, I wouldn't sweat it. If you're also on a jinashi, it's normal. The up to the jinashi, if you have here that's more than enough. That nishigo no ha. That's what you need.
You know what I just realized? We did get a really interesting piece of information.
Go ahead.
We got a disclosure from Raphael.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
He says, I have a chart measuring, for real nerds in this chat, I measured and compared 32 flutes. All my big wide bore flutes are made by great makers. Those are 13 just in that case. Mm-hmm. So is he confessing to owning 32 shakuhachis, 13 of which are wide bore?
Yes.
Because I've asked him point blank, how many? He's like, I don't know.
Yeah. I asked him once too. He's like, Juno, I buy what I want.
Your Raphael impression is Juno.
Juno?
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, by the way, those of you who are not members of the Discord, come to the Discord and you get to meet all these fabulous personalities like Raphael. Because he's a fascinating guy. Really, really intelligent. Knows more about... He's forgotten more stuff about flutes than I will ever know.
Yeah.
Really, really sharp guy. So.
Very, very sharp. And brilliant artist. Brilliant artist.
Yeah. So another thing that we haven't talked about of late is we haven't talked about what's happening like in the studio much lately. Summertime's a little slower. We don't have quite as much going on.
It's just the summer heat really gets to people, right? And basically what we're planning on right now is the basically our next Taidu festival, which looks like it's going to be a little bit smaller this time around, which I actually don't mind. I think it's going to be really nice to work with people more individually. I think, actually, if I think about it, the numbers are probably going to be pretty close to previous years, but just probably maybe one or two people less.
It's just more opportunity to make people cry.
Yeah, that's right.
Master lesson.
And that going on, and then also we have a lot of students who are actually, I don't want to say a lot. We have like 2 or 3 people who are on the brink of Shihan, right? You included, right? And so working on those pieces, working on everybody's projects, and me trying to help people to get their career started. Like Robin's working really hard in Europe.
A lot of videos right now.
A lot of videos. He went to the Prague Festival. He's doing a festival in Finland. He's teaching. He's in whatever. I mean, he's basically there. We just have to.
He presented at the Prague Festival.
Yes, he did. So basically now it's just a matter of filling out the paperwork and getting everything done from him and stamping some stuff and sending him out a certificate. But that's probably the biggest thing is that we're in this new section of where I'm going to be giving people Shihans for the first time, and it's been 5-6 years. I haven't done that ever, and so it's a new thing for me, and so the thing I'm a little bit nervous about because I really want them to be successful. I want them to do really well. I want them to have I want them to have students. I want them to have concerts. I want them to make it as an option if that they wanted to do this as a professional career that they can. And so leading them and giving them the right advice is very tough. But that's something in the studio that's so new and very exciting.
You referred to it as the brink of Shihan, and I was like, it is. I'm like staring over the cliff.
It's like base jumping. See, we had that conversation before.
But it does feel a bit like you're staring off into the abyss because for however many years you've been playing, you've had a repertoire laid out in front of you. You knew what you were doing, and you knew what you had to learn and what you were going to be playing. And then all of a sudden, you reach that point where it's like, all right, now you get to kind of have a lot more say in what you're going to play.
Yeah.
And what you want to do with your shakuhachi and which direction you want to go.
And the other thing too is that now it's going to become a lot more that you are responsible for your growth.
Yeah.
And we can still learn pieces together. We can still have lessons. That's fine. But the thing is that now you have to, work out your own issues in terms of, what technique, what you want out of your sound, where you want to go to develop your own voice. Because there's not really much I can do on that end, right? It's so individualized. So I become like Shakuhachi bamboo counselor, not necessarily bamboo teacher in this sense.
Well, and like with me, for example, like you've been trying for years now to make me better. This is it. So
yeah, I have to. But like this thing is though is that Shihan is that starting point, right? Like when I got my Shihan, I didn't really feel like I was really ready for it.
Yeah.
I don't
that's
think
how I feel.
I don't think anybody ever does.
I mean, that's how I feel with Jun Shihan and taking on a few students.
And
you find out rapidly what the holes are in your knowledge.
Teaching. But the thing is, you learn so quickly then, and you get so much better so faster.
Right.
And I for my sort of Shihan stuff, I actually refused to teach for many years.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't even like performing that much, and then I did start performing more and more. And then as I decided, like, okay, I'm going to tour now, I'm going to actually go on the road and do some performances, that's when I actually started picking up my first students. And a lot of it always felt like really uncomfortable. But then as it went on, then I started to become more comfortable in the knowledge. I did more research. It forced me to actually learn a lot more. So it's a really important step in the Shakuhachi player's career to get the Shihan, start having their own disciples and students, and do their own concerts, go to the festivals, and do all that kind of thing, and build a name for yourself. Not to be famous, not to do whatever, but just for your own personal growth, because there's so much, you get so much out of it.
Right.
So much out of it.
Yeah, and it's I think similar. We always make the martial arts comparison. It's quite similar to when you get your black belt in a traditional art.
Yeah.
Because the sort of the old joke is, what does a black belt mean? It just means your pants don't fall down, right? That means, you understand where you're headed now, and now it's up to you to go do what you need to do to be actually good at it.
Yeah.
And, the teaching, having just a few students and, like, teaching entry-level students definitely brings you back around to realizing what you need to work on.
And just the constant interaction with the fundamentals.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I think teaching has been the thing that's made me a way better player more than anything else. Like, I mean, I can sit in the practice room and play all the most difficult lines and do fully crazy chromatic stuff and whatever, but that's meaningless if you don't have a really strong tone.
Yeah.
And you get that by teaching the students and expressing it, and then you start to reflect on it when you talk about it. So a lot of stuff there.
Well, and in that vein, we had an Okudin recital this morning. Bright and early.
4 a.m.
Yeah, 4 a.m. Japan time.
That was my favorite part about it. That was at 4 a.m. What about you?
Oh, that was great.
So we were low energy today for that reason.
I was tempted to just stay up.
Oh, I did. I stayed up because I had to go and do some other things. I had to take out the trash and whatever. I cleaned up the house a little bit, and then I
No,
came
I mean,
back
like,
and started teaching.
I was tempted to stay up from the night before.
Oh,
to
I
just
see.
Not go to bed.
Yeah, I fell asleep around like 10 o'clock, and then I woke up at 2:45.
10 o'clock. That's late for you, Gramps.
That is late for me. I'm usually like out by like. No, that's about 10. That's about right because I usually fall asleep like 10 or 11, and then I wake up at 5.
So, my wife, when we were looking for a house out here, she came and she stayed with Sean and his wife, and they were very gracious hosts. Let her stay while she was looking for houses, and she told me, she said, "Oh, it's lovely. The house is lovely. They're very nice. The kids are cute." She says, "Just they go to bed at like 8."
But then I'm up at 5. Like, it's
So,
just like.
yeah, again, it's talking about coming to the festival. You know, that's what you can expect. Like party all night till like 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And then we all go to bed.
Yeah, and then but everybody's up really early,
Everybody
and
is
then
up
we
early.
do like yoga in the morning, and then go hiking and stuff like that. Like,
I think we're gonna try and blow row every morning. Is that still on the plan?
yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
We're gonna try and blow row together every morning. Bring a 1-8, please.
That's how the sun rises. If you don't blow row, the sun won't come up.
All right. So I don't think. Do we have any questions?
No, it's quiet chat today.
Childlike imagination is a good thing. Yes, that's correct. This Eric guy, I like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care what everybody else says. I think he's okay.
Hopefully he'll officially join the studio one day.
Yeah, no, I think you should, Eric. You should join us for real. One of us. One of us.
Yeah, or we have to bring out the shame bells and walk you through the city. But anyways, I think that we can cut it short today. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
All right, so this is your last chance. If you have any questions, oh yeah, Eric's in the lessons.
But,
All right.
I mean, I'm meaning like the private lessons, like
Yeah.
studying with Linus or myself or something
Yeah.
like that.
So this is your last chance. You have any questions? Like hit us up right now in the chat. Svenja, what are you talking about? She says you are so nice, Linus. Don't
patronize him.
Yeah. I don't need your sympathy.
Sugiyama Kosuke says that your beard's magnificent.
Thank you. It's like about 4 hours in the makeup chair every morning. It's
Yeah, HR is getting really mad about that, and the accountants are like, "How much money are you guys spending on beard products?"
Yeah, that's why we don't have 2 cameras. It's because it's all beard oil.
Or 2 mics. It's just 1 mic because priorities.
He just wants to sit next to me.
That's probably what it is.
No, it's interesting. The beard. When people ask me about the beard, and they're like, "Wow, that's really amazing." You know, how do you grow your beard like that? I always say the same thing. You have to be super lazy to have a beard this long. Okay, you have to not do anything. Okay, to have a beard this long, and you also have to be willing to, deal with not being able to eat. Like, I don't eat ice cream in public. I don't eat soup in public. Salads with creamy dressing. Yeah.
Are you ever gonna shave again? The whole thing off, or because Reginald was pretty cool.
I was told last time that when I cut it down, if I just cut it down to where I just had like the long goatee and a big mustache and shaved the rest, looked like a bare-knuckled boxer from the 19th century.
I think that you should go with the Jean Calvin. I think that it'd look great. I mean, you kind of have it there. You just have to trim it down.
Trim it down, yeah. Actually, I'm also a big fan of the forked beard. This was a thing in Europe at one point, and mine forks really nicely. So I'm really tempted to just go that route.
Have you seen like the beard competitions where people like make a bird's nest and stuff out of their
Some
beard?
of those guys, I don't. First of all, those people are very gifted in terms of how strong their hair is. And then the products, I watched documentaries on it, and the products that they use are like the kind of lacquer hairspray that women use on Broadway. Like the dancers that have the slicked down hair that never moves. They use that, and then to get it out, they have to go like sit in the bathtub and like soak it out. It's a lifestyle, dude.
Yeah, that's I'm not about that. So anyways, would you like to take us out?
I think we're all done. So don't forget, like, share, subscribe, join us on Discord. Take a look at the Taidu Jinashi if you're in need of a bulletproof Hankyoku machine.
That's right.
And
stay tuned for the Giatti.
That's right. Stay tuned for the Giatti. And also, maybe someday bigger ones.
right.
Keep bugging him about like a 2.4 is what we need.
Yep.
Okay. And until then, row for 10.